It's Labor Day weekend and MSI is on the air. As I get rid of the echoes for everybody on this side of the screen, I just thought I'd throw that out there. It is a Labor Day weekend, a holiday weekend here in the States, and we're glad you took time out of your holiday to join us. At least we hope you did. If you didn't and you're watching this on a recording, maybe it is Labor Day where you're at. Who knows? Could be Halloween for all I know. Either way, enjoy the show. It should be fun. I think it will be fun. And we have our in-house panelist with us as always. We have a guest panelist joining us, of course, as well as we'll take and put 3 new songs randomly selected out of those that are sent to us via our website in front of the panel for their review. Should be quite interesting. Should be a lot of fun, as a matter of fact. The fun part about it is we never know what kind of songs we're going to get, whether they're going to be great songs, horrible songs, or kind of mediocre songs. That's kind of cool. The panelists never know what they're going to hear before they hear it, and they hear it live at the same time you, our audience, hears it live. Of course, if you're on our live page, which we encourage, we have a little something extra for you as well. At the bottom beneath the player window, you can hit our hit list sponsor banner there and get some cool free stuff. I'll talk more about that later. First of all, let's meet our panelist on today's broadcast, all the way from New York City, weighing in at, it's not a fight, Rich. They told me to say that, but here's Tom Chianti. Hey, Tommy.
Hey, Rich.
How you
Yes,
doing?
I have lost some weight,
You
and
have
I can now do something I've never been able to do before,
fit
and
into that evening dress.
well, no, it's the under chin wiggle. Like the grandma's arms. I can do the under chin wiggle because I've lost so much
So
weight.
you got that turkey thing going.
Gobble gobble.
Well, it's good. How much you up to nowadays?
I just break the scale at 190.
Well, very good. Very good.
I aims to get down to 180 and then do the show with my shirt off.
Well, let's talk about that off air. I'm not
Let's
saying,
not even talk about it.
yeah, I'm not saying it couldn't be done. I'm just saying
It won't.
probably shouldn't. Yeah, yeah.
Look, I'd be happy for Tom to do the show with his shirt off, as long as his video's off as well.
There we go. That seems like a plan.
All right. Well, there you heard it. Tom will
I
do
will
a
have to
show.
dye some chest hairs though.
Not if your camera's off. It'll all be fine. You don't have to worry about it then.
Well, for myself.
Yeah. Well. And Box out there in the chat room wants to know if you're still going to wear the bra, though.
The man bra.
Yeah, the bro.
The
as
bro
as
bra.
they said it. I think on Seinfeld they called it the bro instead of the bra.
That's something to consider, but only when we do the swimsuit calendar.
All right, yeah, that is the 2020 edition of the show. We'll do that calendar, I think, Tom. Give
That
you
would be a good date. I'll
plenty,
look better
plenty
by
of
then.
time to get in shape. All right, let's go to London, England, and meet Mr. Ian Husbands. Ian, how you doing today, sir?
I'm good, thank you very much. Tad tired, but I've been away at a festival all weekend, playing over there, dressed as a zombie.
I heard you were a zombie. So how did you get better?
I wasn't really a zombie, Rich. It was just makeup and effects.
My understanding is
just
this whole
pretend.
zombie thing is caused by bites from other zombies. I'm
Or,
assuming,
or,
based upon the pictures that I've seen, that you were bitten by Morgan or he bit you. I'm really not sure.
yeah, the whole family came down and we got the kids dressed up in zombie outfits as well and took them backstage with us. Tony got up and sung. My wife was with the band too. So it was a family outing, and we met up with a load of old friends that we haven't seen. Well, we see about once a year at these festivals, which is always nice, and a good gig and lots of fun.
Well, are you going to post any actual pictures of you as a zombie? I know that Box of Crap out in the chat room and others, I'm sure Free Beer out there also would love to see you as a zombie.
I've put it on Twitter. I will put it in this thing for you now. There you go.
All right.
in the
Well,
chat in the chat room.
all right. So everybody can now see what Ian looks like as a zombie. He actually, believe it or not, everybody, if you weren't here over the middle of the week, which you probably weren't because we weren't broadcasting, you would have known that Ian took a small spill and actually scuffed himself up in order to prepare for this whole zombie concert, right, Ian?
Yeah, I actually threw myself down some stairs just so I could get a limp.
And how's that work out for you?
It got better.
Ah,
I've done it too early.
oh yeah, that sucks. You need to hold off until like a couple of hours before, I guess, next time.
Yeah.
Oh, you look like oh, a 70s zombie, Rob Zombie. Yeah, there we go.
That's why they.
I'll take that. I'll take that as a compliment. I like Rob Zombie a lot.
Yeah, I thought you would.
And that's kind of probably why they call it a zombie.
Well, where's the picture with your makeup on?
I didn't put any makeup on.
Okay.
All right, all right. Before we go down the rabbit hole, which I know we will at some point during the show, I want to introduce our guest panelists. But
No, you
first,
don't. No, that's
you
right.
you gotta trust me on this. But first, I want to get Ian to give us the witness statement results from last week. Ian?
Well, it's quite simple, really. Everyone agreed with us on Song 2, On Wheels by Raggy Bones, for songwriting and performance, but only about half of the audience agreed with us. That was best mix and production, with Song 3 getting some props on that one as well.
So
But overall,
I gave
everyone
Song
agreed with
3
us.
some props because they were all great songs. They were very tight.
yeah, so
Yes.
Synthesis did get some props out of that as well, is what you're saying, Ian.
They did, yeah.
All right, well, very good. Very good to hear indeed. Now let's meet our guest panelist. Our guest panelist has been on the show a number of times before. We're always happy to have him back. We're going to hold an intervention for him sometime in the middle of the winter, so please stay tuned for that. Mr. Rob Puricelli joins us today. Rob, how are you, sir? It's always great to see you back with us.
And exactly the same. Great to see you guys and have the chance to catch up. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Now, the question I have for you, now I don't always read over everybody's bio as we do these introductions, but today I happen to have your bio up in front of me. It says one thing in here which kind of strikes me that I didn't know, maybe I didn't read it the first time around, and of course I'm probably, apt to do that because I'm really slow. It says here that you were at one time a drummer. Now,
Yes.
how do you explain that, considering I know that you're above average intelligent for drummers?
Oh.
Oh, I drool equally from both sides of my mouth. That's how you can tell the riser's level. No, it
Don't
was
start me on
my-
drum jokes.
yeah. I've heard them all. No, it was my first. No, actually, no, that's a lie. It was my second instrument. My first was the recorder, the descant recorder. But no, I always had this thing that when you just know that you can do something, or that if you were to try and do it, you could do it. And it sounds really conceited, but I always felt like I had rhythm. And for years and years, as a kid growing up, I kept pestering my parents. Let me have a drum kit or get me some of these electronic drums. Do you remember the Mattel Synsonics? It
Yeah.
was like 4 little drum pads. Carmine and Peace used to advertise them. And I remember saying to my parents, that's what's going to make me a superstar. Please, 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 can I have one of those? I never got one until about 10 years ago when I found one on eBay. And eventually, when I got behind a drum kit one day at school, at high school, I just threw my arm up in the air and said, "Can I play the drums?" And I think the teacher was taken aback by someone actually showing an interest in music, because most kids were just like, just going through the motions. And I found that I actually had a fairly natural ability to play the drums. And so I carried on doing it and just taught myself, really. I wouldn't say I'm that good, but I can hold a beat.
That's half the battle right there, as far as I'm concerned. I can't hold a
Yeah.
beat. I'm the most rhythm challenged person I think I know.
I can hold a beat with a pitchfork.
Now let me
Except
ask
Rob,
you.
I'm going to butt in and ask
Go-
Rob.
go
Rob's
right ahead.
a tech muso and a drummer. Have you used Easy Drummer 2 yet?
No, I tend to steer clear of kind of programs that I will use lots of drum samples, but I will play everything myself. And I've got some really great sort of drum sample packages. And I've also got my own, I've got a Yamaha electronic drum kit. So I use that as and when the mood takes me. But I haven't tried it. I've heard some good things about it, but no, I haven't tried that.
As a tech blogger, you should be checking it out. It's a very, very good bit of kit. Again, you can use the preset loops and grooves they've got in there, or you can play it through your homemade kit. I've recently tested it with my Bentley TD90, the Rolls Royce of electronic drum kits.
Indeed.
And it works great. And some of the kits and the add-on packs they've got out there are just fantastic. Check it out.
Yeah, I will. I'll see if I can blag a freebie off someone. I'm sure I know someone who knows someone else. But I was using the name escapes me because it's been a while. I have an aversion to Contact, the sampler, which a lot of people, even my late friend who passed away just recently, Steve Howell of Hollow Sun, he converted to Contact completely and kept trying for years to get me to go over. And I actually prefer Motu's Mac 5. And there's a great acoustic drum sample pack on there, and the sounds are just, and it's not just the main drum sounds, all the articulations and everything. That it really is very, very good. Very good.
Well,
indeed.
I have both, and Mach 5, I tell you, and Contact. But I'm a digital performer, Motu freak. So Mach 5 is, just way more in depth than Contact.
Yeah.
Although Contact can, knock you for a loop.
Oh, Contact! Don't get me wrong. I don't doubt that its quality and certainly its popularity. But there's something about Mac 5 that's just, for me, it suits my mindset. It's a bit like Reason, which I use as a sequencer mainly. There's just something very intuitive and very that fits my brain arrangement. And yeah, I'm a big Mac 5 fan.
Now, it seems like every time we have you on the broadcast, we always have to talk about the big monster in the room, the guy sitting behind you right there. Yeah, you know the guy I'm talking about. So how are things going with the Fairlight in the world of Fairlight, I guess?
Slow is probably the word. Yeah, it was always going to be a slow process. We knew that from the start because it's kind of a distance project. So I don't own this. I'm merely its custodian, and the guy that does is in Australia, and he's the expert, and he sends me all the parts. So there's obviously a considerable delay in when we do things. But I think since last we spoke, I don't know how much you can see that big white thing behind me there. That's actually the keyboard case, which is solid MDF and real, dense MDF. And we've exposed the internals. We're cleaning the contacts up. It has this brilliant way of registering note on and off values and also velocity. It's such a simple method, and it's just incredible. But it involves every key having its own individual contact spring, and some of those have broken, and there's going to be a lot of resoldering involved, but that's going to happen in the next 6 weeks, we hope. So that keyboard should be ready. The mainframe is pretty much there, just a couple of cards that need replacing. And in the meantime, I've acquired another Fairlight. Would you believe? I've actually now got a Fairlight 2X, which is the classic Fairlight. And that's currently sitting downstairs in my garage and is missing a lot of stuff, so that there's going to be a lot of work involved with that. But that's the one. That's the one I love.
If I may ask you, the Synclavier versus Fairlight, what do you think?
Good question. Difficult one to answer. The Synclavier was is a beast, and it's built like a bomb shelter. In fact, all the buttons on the Synclavier keyboard are derived from the buttons used on the B-52 bomber. That's how rugged this thing is. They never fail. But I think they do a lot of things similarly. A lot of people said that they got on with the Synclavier more because of its user interface. It had a much easier user interface, or a more intuitive user interface. I've never used one, so I couldn't ever say. But the Synclavier was predominantly a hard disk recording system and an FM synthesizer. They were the two big things it was really good at. Sampling, was kind of like the Fairlight. To be honest, the Fairlight sampling on the Fairlight was an afterthought. It was always an afterthought, although that's what it became famous for. So I think looks wise, I mean, they both look amazing, but I think the Fairlight has it in with its kind of minimalist white arrangements. I'm biased.
Well, you have to be. You have
That's
to
why
be.
I asked you.
Now, I have a question for you, because we know you're a musician as well, not only a drummer, but that works for me. I wish I could drum. I really do. It's just one of those things I'd like to do. So tell us about how things are going for you from a music perspective. In the pre-show, we talked a little bit about a song of yours being included on a compilation album. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's hopefully going to happen. It's been submitted, and the last I heard, it was going to be included. So hopefully that hasn't changed. What it is, there's a guy here in the UK called Simon Holland, and over the last few years, he's been putting together compilation albums that he sells through the Bandcamp site called Bedroom Cassette Masters. And up until now, every one of those has been about music that was made in people's bedrooms during the 1980s, or music that is of that kind of era. So you might have made it today, but if it was, if it leans, sonically towards that era, then he'll consider it inclusion.
Remind me to talk to this guy, because I got a bunch of stuff from back in those days, actually made in bedrooms.
Exactly, that's exactly what he's looking for, and predominantly he does favor electronic music. But
he wouldn't consider something made with, say, for example, a garbage can in an old Shoots Away game.
You never know. If it's good, I'm sure it will be
ukulele.
considered.
No, we couldn't afford a ukulele then. That's why we had to use a garbage can. All right, so tell us about your song on this compilation.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, he announced that he was putting a new compilation together, and this time it was going to be music that was made in people's bedrooms in the 90s. Now, I'm all about 80s electronic music. That's my thing. However, it was only in the 90s that I actually began to earn enough money to own equipment that could make music electronically. So that's when most of my compositions happened. And there was a period between 1996 and 1998 where I was pretty prolific and just churning out all sorts of stuff, and then just recording it and sticking it on a tape somewhere, and then doing something else, and never really doing much with it. And when I saw this request, for submission, I thought, well, I've got a bunch of tracks that could quite easily go on there. So I listened to them all again, and I canvassed the opinion of some close friends and some other people as well, and most of them said, they favored one particular track. So that's the track that hopefully will be on there. And the project is I love the way he does it, because he doesn't just do the music, it's he does all the artwork. So he puts together a big PDF booklet that you can print off or view online, and it contains adverts of the day for equipment of the day. He wants to know about how you made it, what equipment you used. It's a real proper geeky music thing. And he also produces the J card for a cassette, so that you can take the music, which you download from Bandcamp at a price, and you can record it onto audio cassette and make your own cassette. And it's great. And the styling is just fantastic. He puts an incredible amount of effort into it. And I'd be deeply honored if I got my track on there. When it goes on there, which will hopefully be very soon. So.
Well, we definitely hope it does get on there. And do you know, is there a website where people can go to find out more information about that, or perhaps even pick up the compilation that your track might be included on, hopefully will be included on?
Yeah, it's the exact address. I'll pick it up and give it to you in a little while. But if you Google Bedroom Cassette Masters, or go onto the Bandcamp site and search for Bedroom Cassette Masters, you'll find the page there, and you can pick up all the existing compilations. And I think he charges a minimum of £3 British pounds per compilation, and there's usually 15 to 20 tracks on each album, so it's really good value for money.
All right, well, very cool. It sounds pretty awesome to me, and obviously wish you the best of luck with that.
Thanks.
And we want to find out if you think, or anybody thinks, that some of the music you're going to hear today might fit the bill for some of that as well. We have 3 tracks, as I said earlier in the broadcast, up for the panel review today. So I'd like to, if we can, go ahead and take a listen to the first track on the show today, and then we'll come back and get everybody's opinion on it. So here, everyone, is track number 1 on today's broadcast. Please enjoy track number 1 on today's MSI.
Tell me, have you seen her? Have you seen her? 'Cause I do need her. She lives in my camera. 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 Lights and camera at night, a vampire. Shots like gunfire, light it up, get more hot. Her name was Keisha, or maybe Alicia. It don't matter, I need her. She needs a feature. Studio sessions come with so much aggression. I'm feeling your passion, I capture your actions. Louis or Prada, I got a lot of. In the way that you do it, I'm in love with her. Have you seen her? Have you seen her? 'Cause I do need her. She lives in my camera. 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 Flash and focus, you already know it. I can tell how you swag it. I can tell how you posing on the cover of Vogue or on Black Magazine. It don't matter, you're bad, and you need to be seen. London, New York, Houston, Atlanta, take a trip to Jamaica, on the beach of Havana, sipping lattes on camera, but I need to remember, tell her get at me when you see her. Tell me, have you seen her? Have you seen her? 'Cause I do need her. She lives in my camera. 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 Head and glamour shots, the angle and pose hot, the concept and capture. You killing them grade plots, professional sorta. Since I done got older, have you seen her around? She drives a Corolla, model releases, released in my camera. She should be in the movie. Make submissions to Tyler. She's a survivor, she been through so much drama. That don't matter tonight, 'cause she lives in my camera. Have you seen her? Have you seen her? 'Cause I do need her. She lives in my camera. Lives in my camera. She 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 lives in my camera. Lives in my camera. Lives in my camera. Lives in my camera. She lives in my camera. Lives in my camera. Lives in my camera. Lives in my camera. She lives in my camera.
There it is. That's track number 1 on the broadcast today. And we're going to start things out by heading over to Ian, who's writing all sorts of nasty things about me in the chat room. If you don't join us in the chat room, you miss out on a lot of the fun. I got to say that right now. Ian, before you spread any more rumors, innuendo, and all that stuff, why don't you tell us what you think about track number 1?
First of all, I'd just like to state that I'm not writing nasty things about you. I'm just saying that you like to twerk once in a while.
You don't have any pictures, so you can't prove it. That's all I'm saying.
It was you that was talking about the New Orleans incident. Do we need to discuss that on air?
No, we really don't.
Just making sure. As to the track, okay. There's some good stuff going on here, and there's not so good stuff. I think they've opened up with this sort of sung chorus, and for me, that is the weakest part of the track. From the point of view of the performance of the vocalist, the layering of the sounds, the general mix of the vocals as well. It's got quite a good melody. I can see what they're trying to do with it. Obviously, the hook about the camera. But I do not feel that that is the strongest part of the track. Once the track gets going and the instrumental parts start to layer up, there's some nice sonics going on there, some nice sounds, some good atmospherics as well. But that vocal, it tightens up. It starts to become a bit more interesting lyrically. But it's still not sitting right in the mix for me. It seems separate from the instruments. So you need to work on that a little bit. And there was a sort of hey yeah or a hey, and it was all delayed.
Yeah.
It was triggering sort of every sort of start of every bar really, and it was getting a tad annoying from my point of view. That was overdone. You know, it's nice bits of ear candy, but you need to use them sparingly instead of just hitting people over there with it constantly. Did like the lyrics. Lyrics were going somewhere. You've got the start of a good hook there. Again, there were times when I thought that hook was overused. You sort of had the sort of delays, sort of tripping. It was like, yeah, you could cut that in half and it would still be effective. It didn't go very anywhere, really, from my point of view. You had your sort of rapped verse parts, you had your sort of sung chorus parts, and that was about it. You know, it needed to move on. It needed to up its game. It needed to go somewhere different. Bring in another vocalist, especially on that chorus. You know, get someone with a deep, soulful voice who can really sort of hack that out for you, and it will transform that chorus from being very mediocre at the moment to something a lot better. I think, you know, it's a good demo. You've got a really good start here. You can build on this, but you need to get those vocals sorted out as a priority.
All right, Ian, I appreciate that. Thank you. Off we go to New York City. Tom Chianti and his thoughts as well. Hey, Tommy, tell me what you think.
Rich. Well, with today's technology, almost anything can be fixed except for one thing, and that's enthusiasm. You cannot mechanically, digitally, chemically put enthusiasm in a vocal or especially a chorus unless it's there to begin with. Maybe it's an attitude that he was going for. You know, I am getting on in years, so who knows, I've missed a few tunes. But I really think that chorus would have been could have been performed better. The claps were too mechanical, as said in the chat room. I think Bach said it. And like Ian said, that sampled, triggered, yeah, is way overused. And you could still use it that much if you got, you know, into alternate pannings, filtering, delays, filtering and panning. You could make it a lot more interesting. I like the lyrics in the beginning, you know, when they're talking about studio vibes and stuff. And then, you know, it reminds me of that song Photograph. You know, she's in her camera. You know, it's a similar idea. And I hate to sound like we've heard it before. But I think it needs to be made a little bit more interesting lyrically. Sonically, as to what's there, it's minimal. The low end is good. I just think this needs a rework. It's definitely in the low to mid-range area of demo quality. It definitely could come up a little bit to be a good demo quality. And I don't know, like I said, I might be missing it, but his performance doesn't sound interesting. And to me, especially in rap, the rap is the thing. You've got to hear the emotion, and in his, he just sounds like, you know, he's very tired at the end of the day. And I think once he fixes that, everything else with a good producer could fall into place.
All right, Tommy, I appreciate that. Thank you. Now over to the man, the myth, the legend, the man from failedmuso.com, Mr. Rob Puricelli. Rob, what do you think of track number one?
I kind of agree with pretty much what Tom and Ian have already said. The first thing that really disturbed me was that the kick seemed to be heavily biased over to the right. And
oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Thank you, Rob.
No, thank you. I'm glad it wasn't just me. And I appreciate the use of the stereo field, but to have the kick drum permanently seated in that seemingly kind of rear right kind of position just felt completely unnatural, and it distracted me from a lot of other things. Sub frequencies are it's human beings don't kind of detect them in the normal world. They can't position, they're kind of monophonic, so really whenever I mix anything, the kick is always dead center or spread equally left and right. You don't bias it unless of course you're attempting to move that kick drum around for some kind of effect. It just seemed locked in the right hand side, and it felt uncomfortable. So that was my first observation. I like the minimalist nature of the track. It's nice to have a rap track where it is very minimal, because let's be honest, in the early days of rap, it was very minimal. It was somebody with a lot of stuff to say and saying it in a very incredibly skillful way over some kind of minimalist beat or something. So I liked that. I also liked the synths in the background. The chord progression was kind of dark, and there was something it's got some quality there. Although I thought that those synth sounds could be maybe a bit bigger or a bit more prominent in the mix. The chorus, as has already been pointed out, is the weakest link. I have a thing with rappers that try and sing, and they can't sing. They're rappers. I'm not saying that a rapper can't sing, but most rappers rap really well and sing maybe not so well. And sometimes you can use that and it works. I think Eminem can sing sometimes, and it's not the greatest singing in the world, but it has some kind of interesting character to it. This didn't. And as Ian said, I would have suggested getting somebody who can sing to sing that chorus, that hook, whether it's a male or a female voice, just somebody who can. It would then give the track some dynamic in terms of this rap and this really cool good voice that could do the chorus. So yeah, I thoroughly agree with that. The whole thing with things bouncing around and delays and effects, I almost felt that at some point it was going to slide into a kind of dub reggae thing, and it would have been kind of cool if it had done that, but it didn't. And so, as has already been pointed out, those overly used delays just kind of, where's this going? It just didn't really do much for me. The lyrics, interesting concept. Like the concept, could have been better. I like songs or raps that tell a story. So if they could have, figured out some kind of a story to tell so that there was something to keep me interested throughout the whole track, that would have been nice. Good effort, but lacking in a few areas for me.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, Rob. Thank you very much. Let me introduce that track. The name of this track is called Camera, and it's by Alan Luckey. We appreciate Alan sending that into MSI. If you'd like your song in front of our panel, all you have to do is go to musicsceneinvestigation.com. You can then click on the Submit a Song link at the top of the page to submit your music, and if we select it, we'll get it in front of the panel. Of course, if your song is selected by our panel, it moves on to our hit list competition, where you vie with the other Song of the Week selectees for a Band of the Month title, and we'll have more information coming up on that as well. All right, gentlemen, we have 2 more songs to listen to. I, of course, want to get your opinion on them. So let's start out with song number 2 and see what you think of that. Here it is, everyone. This is song number 2 on today's Music Scene Investigation. right, everybody. Track number 3 on the or track number 2. I'm sorry, ahead of myself there. I didn't mean to get ahead of myself. Track number 2 on the show today. Over to Tom Chianti, first up on the panel. Tom, track number 2 to ya.
Well, when it first started, I said, yeah, I'm going to like this. And then after that really cool guitar riff and the toms going, everything was balanced nice. And then this wimpy snare came in. And this persisted throughout the song, a lack of balance. When you're writing a song, just as every word and lyric and piece of melody that you put together is important, so is the presentation. Balance reigns supreme. The vocals were, this guy could sing, especially when he went into the high L's, but he was buried. It's like this was mixed by the guitarist and the guy who was playing the toms. Everything else, gets lost. And everything is there. I think they could use a little bit more build up on the lead vocal and background tracks in the chorus. I like the topic where he's talking about anger and all he was taught was hate or something like that, but I couldn't really get the full, extent of the lyrics because they were buried. And it's got in there or all the elements for a really good headbanging groove. I mean, I started to rock and the balance just made me lose it. It's very important, to have everything balanced right because everything keys off something else. The snares, the hi-hat, the foot or the kick, they've got to key off the bass. And the guitar melodic rhythms got to fit in with everything, and the vocals got to be in the, right on and in the pocket. So a lot of this can be fixed with balances. I say most of it's there. It's a very good demo. Unfortunately, they wouldn't get past the intro and when the lead vocal came in because it's too soft. Nobody's got time for it. When you're making something, you want to get it out there. Keep the intro interesting or keep it very short and slam in with a confident, loud enough vocal. And you'll at least get past 8, 16, 32 bars of A&R listening. That's been my experience. Overall, like I said, it's got pretty much 90 to 95% everything there. Just needs a remix, a little build up on the vocal in the chorus, and there's the harmonized guitars. That's they're cool, but they're so 80s. And especially with today's technology, you can really come out with some, devastating guitar sounds that will just make whatever lick you play sound good. Don't fall back on the easy harmony. Spend some time. Come up with a unique guitar sound, and it'll make it sell. So it makes me want to really like it, but it needs to be balanced and remixed.
All right, Tommy, I appreciate that. Someone out in the chat room mentions get better speakers. Everybody usually...
that was what I was thinking because I listen to it low, I listen to it loud. Yeah, get some better speakers or someone with a little bit more experience and definitely listen the hell out of it on all types of speakers.
All right, Tom, I appreciate it. Over to Mr. Rob Puricelli to find out his thoughts as well. Rob, track number 2 over to you, my friend.
I really, really like that. I was kind of rocking out here. I will defer to Tom's superior mixing knowledge, but I didn't didn't hear anything too out of balance per se. My initial thought was I like that guitar with the reverb at the very beginning, and it kind of had a bit of a kind of a Cure type feel to it, and I wondered where the track, what we were going to get, and then it goes into a big rock thing, and then I'm under no illusion as to where this track is going. The intro seemed a bit long before the vocals kicked in, and I kind of get Tom's point about that. You need to kind of grab the attention a bit quicker. So I would have maybe brought the vocals in earlier. It kind of had a feel, it kind of had that kind of Rage Against the Machine stroke Foo Fighters type feel to it. There was, but it felt like somebody was pushing on the gas pedal, but they hadn't got it quite to the floor. It was almost like we want to be, these kind of aggressive, chunky guitars, but we don't want to go too much. So it's go balls out and do it, and give it a bit more. So it sounded like the guitars to me could have been a bit more in your face. I liked that there was these interesting little embellishments between the pre-chorus and the chorus. The fact that they kind of stopped into this little bit on the guitar and then boom, you're into the chorus. So that adds interest and dynamics. I love dynamics, so that was good. I love the way I'm a sucker for rock songs that do this thing where they're in a kind of a slow tempo and then they double up, and that really builds the power, and then they go back to the original tempo, and it's big anthemic kind of stuff. So I really like that. There's a lot I really, really liked about this, apart from slightly long intro. Put your foot all the way to the floor in terms of the guitar sound, the drum sound, and the vocal performance itself was good. It was really good. It was completely in tune. It had the passion, it had the feeling. It just like the whole track felt like it could just be pushed, hit that turbo button and go for it. But other than that, as Tom said, it's virtually there. Just a little bit of polish here and there. And I think that will do really, really well.
All right, Rob, I appreciate your thoughts on that. Now we'll go over to Ian, London, England. Ian, tell me what you think about track number 2.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. I mean, it's got definitely that post-grunge sound that I'm into. Rob mentioned Rage Against the Machine. To me, it was Audio Slave, which was Rage Against the Machine, except with Chris Cornell on the vocals instead of Dak De La Rocha. And when that vocal came in, I was kind of pleased because it went more like Chris Cornell direction for me. I think from my point of view with the vocal, I loved his performance. I thought it was great. I would have liked to heard it just a tad higher in the mix. The guitars for me were just a little bit too dominating. But I don't think it's a case of bringing the guitars down. I think it's just a case of edging that vocal just up and over them slightly more. My biggest problem with the vocal wasn't something that was there. It was something that was missing for me. There were backing vocals. There was the oohs and stuff coming in towards the end to build that chorus up. But I wanted to hear that screechy harmony going on over the top of some of them chorus parts, very much like the Cornell, where he's either singing the octave above or he's singing a fifth, really going for it. To me, that would have just finished that chorus off perfectly. Love the dynamics, as Rob said as well. The way that chorus smashed in your face, I did like that. Again, the long intro thing. Is it an album track? Is it a single? This could easily have a single edit done to it, rather than go back and just cutting that off. You could just, do an album edit, a single edit, and that would work. I mean, if you're doing sort of more of an album that's sort of got link tracks and stuff like that, so you want them long intros to sort of make them pieces work, it's fine. I don't, as it stands, I don't have a problem with it. If it's going to be a single, then yeah, cut it down a bit. The other thing was the guitar sound. Again, I did like the guitar sound. I think it was powerful. But I would have liked to hear them slightly more nastier, a little bit more top end in there. They're very warm, they're very nice sounding. I would have liked to hear a bit more brittleness and a bit more edginess to them. But it's a minor thing. It really is. I think if you went and saw this band, you'd get that extra bit of passion, that extra bit of everything coming through that Rob's talking about. It's very hard to capture all that in a recording. I think they've done a great job with it. I think it could be released as it is, to be honest. Even with a bit of mastering or something like that. I'd like to see them live.
A what?
I'd like to see them live.
All right. Okay. Fair enough.
As opposed to the zombie version of the band.
All right.
I am the zombie.
If you're joining us late, Ian did a show over the weekend where he had to dress up as a zombie at this concert. So there
I had
you
my
go.
guts hanging out and everything.
I heard. You didn't do the bacon idea, did you?
No.
I didn't think you would. All right, well, let me introduce the track to everyone. The name of this track, track number 2 on the show today, it's called Blue. It's by a group called Glen Street, and we appreciate Glen Street sending that track into Music Scene Investigation. Thanks a lot, guys, and we've one more track to listen to, gentlemen, so put your headphones back on or whatever it is you do. We'll hear track number 3 right now. This is track number 3 on today's Music Scene Investigation. Enjoy, everyone.
I swear the way she kissed me on my lips, it must have opened up my soul. I'm glad she ain't Medusa when she kissed me, would've turned me into stone. I need you every day, I swear to God, you're gonna need a clone. You touch me, you give me chills, I feel it in my bones. Turn around, it's like why you gotta play these, why you gotta play these again? Why you gotta play these, why you gotta play these again to me? Why you gotta play these, why you gotta play these again? I swear the way I felt, I wouldn't change it and I traded it for time. You go up on my fingers, put it on you, girl, and make your body shine. Every single noise you make is pretty, girl, you're sounding like a chime. We be the stars when we together perfectly aligned. Wanna turn around, you go. Wanna turn around, you go. Why you gotta play these? Why you gotta play these again? Why you gotta play these? Why you gotta play these again to me? Why you gotta play these? Why you gotta play these again? What's that in your cup, girl? Why don't you slow down? I know you're trying to move up, girl, but he's there in the home now. I feel it. Oh yeah, oh yeah, I feel you. Do you kill it? Oh yeah, you hands to the ceiling, move that body, girl, make me feel it. You want all that, girl, I want all that, but you ain't shit, baby. Why you gotta play this? Why you gotta play this?
All right, there is track number 3 on the broadcast today. We're going to find out from Mr. Puricelli what his thoughts are first. Rob, what do you think of track number 3?
This is one of those tracks that whenever I come and do this, there always seems to be one track that I really desperately want to love. But it keeps doing something that really stops me from doing that. And I really like the song. I like the melody. I like the synths. I thought they were very well played. There was maybe one or two things a little bit out of place in that kind of sonic soundscape that was going on in the background, but the piano and the strings, and there was kind of some breathy kind of synths in the background. Very nice, pretty, and suitable. His voice is great. This guy can sing, and I've got no problems with that at all. I actually thought that the vocal was at a really good level in the mix. It was right. I think Ian said in the last track that the vocal could have just been going over a bit. I think this does that. I think this was a good example of that. But the thing that kept really annoying me, and I don't use that word in a nasty way, but it really bugged me that the drum track didn't seem to fit, and it wasn't the rhythm, it was the sounds that were being used. I thought that nice kind of 808 kick with a long tail on it, that kind of suited the track. And I like the balance of reverb, so that all those synths and pianos had nice big kind of spacious reverbs, and the vocal was kind of tight and didn't have too much on it. The drums seemed to be, again, quite dry and tight as well, but that snare just didn't seem to fit the song for me. It just seemed too fake in a way. I can't think of a better word really at the moment. It just didn't seem to fit. And when I was listening to it and listening to the synths going, I was kind of reminded of an artist that I really, really admire, really like, a guy called, he goes under the name of Burial, and he's kind of proper, and I'm going to use this word, and I don't want people to get confused. He's proper dubstep, so he's not bro step, like your Skrillex. He's proper sparse South London dubstep, and the synth, that kind of whole thing had a feel about it, and the drums needed to be less preset-y, if that's a word. They needed to be organic. I think what I would do if I was given that track, I would change all those drum voices, maybe not the kick so much, but the snare and the claps and the hi-hat, and replace them with percussive sounds that aren't necessarily typical drum machine sounds. So go for something, go for some crazy samples, but go for something that has the same kind of pitch frequency as a snare, but isn't a snare. And that would then make the whole track a bit more organic. I think the drums would fit better. It just sounded to me like someone had got the presets, got the 808 presets, and just started using those, and it just didn't seem to fit. And I think if they got that right, then I'd really have very little problem with the track at all. The other thing that stood out for me was I don't mind a tape stop effect when it's used well. And the first time in this track, it was used well. But then there was a second, a third, and a fourth time. And the tape stop effect is one of those effects. If you're going to use it well, but use it once. Don't use it again, because it just takes away from its initial use. So nice, do it once, think of something else to do instead. All those other times that you feel tempted to use it. But overall, a really good production, a great song, superb voice. Just fix those drums and that kind of tape stop effect, and then it will really, really work for me.
All right, Rob, I appreciate it. Thank you. Over to Mr. Ian Husbands and his thoughts on track number 3 right now. Ian?
Yeah, okay. I'm a bit of a loss with this track. There's a lot of stuff I like. But I agree totally with Rob about the drum sounds. That snare was horrible, to say the least. I don't mean that offensively, but, when you've got a lot of other good stuff going on here, I thought the vocal production was lovely. I really did. And as Rob said again, it was sat in the right place. The guy's got great voice. His different ranges that he's using. I liked it a lot. And then you've got that cheap sounding snare out of a preset in the box sound, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. I also found this track was lacking something, and Tommy put in the chat, I bet Ian wants grunge guitars and big BVs. More vocal layering, I agree with, but no, this isn't one for grunge guitars, Tom. Definitely not. But it does need something, and I can't place what it was. This is another track I want to go back and listen to again, and give a bit more attention and a bit more time, because there is something missing for me, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is. I mean, what is going on besides the drums is nice. I did feel that when the sort of right-hand piano sort of lick came in, that real sort of high-pitched sort of rundown, it took your head off a little bit. The piano balance was quite nice. The piano was sounding very nice, but when he sort of done a little run in the intro there, it was like, oh, that was a bit too sharp and a bit too nasty for my liking. But yeah, that's a minor thing. Yeah, I'm at a bit of a loss with this track. I do like what's going on. I think there needs to be more going on, and them drums do need to change.
All right, Ian, I appreciate that as well. Over to Tom Chianti. Tommy, what do you think about track number 3?
Well, the same thing that's bothering everybody got me, of course, that snare. I think it's a 707 snare from the Roland group of snares, or a piccolo snare with a marching snare. That snare could have worked. Brought it down, make it shorter and make it darker, and it wouldn't have, sounded like, as out of place. It would have fit better. I like the intro. Just as I thought it was getting to be a little too long, the vocal came in. That was good. He can definitely sing. The auto-tuning could have been turned back a little bit, not as obvious. This falls in the R&B category. And that piano, I think I know what Ian would have liked. Dry up the piano, bring it a little bit more forward, accompany it with a little bit more interesting string line, and that would have had more substance. But as it was, the piano was a little dull, a little distant. This is, like number 2. These are both 2 tracks I would be honored to do mixes on, because there's just subtle little things that can be done to make them a lot better without even, going back into the recording. It does need, like Ian says, more interesting on the background vocals in the chorus. I think, I like the alternate stylist things the vocalist did with his singing, going to different range. That was very cool. It was a very interesting track. It just needed to be presented a little bit better. It was, disbalance, discoordination, whatever you want to call it. It was distracting from the meat of the song. I couldn't really get the feel of what the lyrics were saying, and it didn't really hold my attention. But again, this is fixable, because there was energy, and the vocal was done tastefully. And, that snare could be made to work. Or I like what Rob said, get something that's not a snare and make it a snare. That's an interesting concept. That's what I love, and that's what I think more people should do with their music. Get sounds that sound like the traditional guitar, drums, mellotron, bells, whistles, whatever, but aren't. And that makes it more organic, makes it more listenable, more interesting, and grabs everybody's attention, because everybody's heard 1,000 snares, drums, guitars, or whatever. You get some metal bending something sound in there that's in pitch, and that perks people's ears up. So I really like what's happening. I just think it needs a little bit more organization, and definitely a little bit of a remix.
All right, Tommy, I appreciate that. The name of this song, it is called Head Games, and it's by Chris James. Chris James is Head Games on today's MSI. Thanks for sending that in, Chris. And now is the time of the broadcast where we're going to throw it over to our panel. They'll select a song of the week. Now, that song of the week is going in against our other songs of the week for the month of August on September 8th for our hit list competition. And they could be selected as Band of the Month at that time. And if they are, they will get from landr.com, the sponsor of the hit list, a pro 1-year subscription for their online mastering. Mastering made easy online. All you have to do is go to landr.com. And if you click the link below the player at musicsceneinvestigation.com/live, you too can get 2 free uncompressed WAV files mastered, and as many MP3s compressed MP3s mastered as you would like at landr.com. Again, that link right below the player at musicsceneinvestigation.com/live. That's what you need to do to get that. And we're going to wish all of our competitors today good luck in the whole selection process. But now I've got to turn it over to our panelist find out what they think about the music they heard today, and make a selection. So, gentlemen, I leave it to you. You can fight it out and discuss it however you'd like to make your decision.
I'm going to go straight with number 2 for me, I think.
That's been a pattern for you the last couple of weeks there, Ian.
I've been a bit more assertive and a bit more decisive.
Go for it, my man.
Yep, I'm stepping up to the plate, and number 2 for me. It does feel the most complete. As I said, I feel number 3 is missing something. It's a great track. Number 1, again, needs some attention. Number 2 is almost a complete package in my mind.
All right, Tommy and Rob?
Bob,
After you, Tommy.
Okay, I will have to agree with Ian as far as what needs to be done. Less of it on track number 2. Although track number 3, tweaked right would be a very, as it is, it's a very tough contender. The last couple of weeks, we've had 1, 2 to 3 songs that are really tight and hard to figure out and make a choice. But this one, yeah. You could remaster it possibly and make number 2 work. It's the least of anything that needs to be done, though.
All right, so that's number 2 for you as well, Tommy?
And I think I'm going to, number 2 for me as well. And the reason being 3 really good tracks, but there's a clear 1, 2, 3 position here. The first track has lots of potential, just needs lots of work. Track number 3, I was kind of edging towards that, but I just can't get over those drum sounds. They need to change because everything else is that good that those really kind of spoil it because they're quite, bad. And I don't mean that in a nasty way. They just don't fit. And I think track number 2 overall was the most complete track in terms of composition and production and mixing, and is just shy of being, on the money. So yeah, for me, track number 2.
All right. Well, there you have it. It's unanimous, everyone. Track number 2 is our song of the week from Glen Street. The name of the track is called Blue. Rob, always a great pleasure having you on the broadcast. Really appreciate you coming back and joining us again this week. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure, as always.
Now, everybody can always go to failedmuso.com to find out what you're up to and read all about your trials and tribulations with the Fairlight, right?
Yeah, quite. Yeah, it's all there.
All right. Definitely head over to failedmuso.com and find out what's going on with Rob. It's a good read. It's a lot of fun. And Tommy, Ian, as always, thank you for sitting on the panel. Everybody out in the audience, want to thank you for being here. If you're on Twitter like Janae is, you can always reach us at MSI Labs. And hi, Janae, by the way. We didn't forget about you. My Twitter broke for about until like 5 minutes ago, but it's back now.
That's convenient.
It is, isn't it? No, it broke. I'm sorry. And we'd love to hear from you as well. Please rate us on iTunes, Music Scene Investigation, of course, over there. And thanks for being with us. Join us again on the 8th of September for our hit list. And, of course, every Sunday for our regular MSI program. Ian?
Who have we got next week?
Who is going to be up next week? That's what I'm asking you.
Are you sitting down?
I am sitting down.
Dave Carrera is joining me live in the studio.
The crazy man himself.
Well,
here we go again. 2 bits in a bottle.
It should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. All right, Dave Carrera.
Always a lot of fun. Nobody gets hurt. Maybe 1 or 2 scrapes on the knees, but that's for them to talk about.
As long as Ian doesn't fall down a set of stairs again, he's fine. It's all right. All right, so tune in for Dave Carrera next week right here on Music Scene Investigation. Until then, we're going to play out with Blue by Glen Street, our song of the week. Thanks for being with us, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.